Welcome back, beautiful, beloved souls. My name is Gem Stone. I'm a psychic medium and I am an author. On this channel, you find I mainly do commentaries. I look at anything and everything to do with life and death through a lens, hence the name of the channel. And I've got a specific interest in consciousness. Now, I hope that you watched the video yesterday where I talked about complete annihilation. And I hope that you shared that video. And if you're feeling generous, please share this video. If you didn't watch yesterday's, I really suggest you do, because from yesterday, there's an even deeper version of the question. So, what is it? It's about the beginning. I'm not really asking what happened before the Big Bang. I'm asking something more fundamental. If the universe has a beginning, how can there ever have been a beginning? Because the moment we say the university began, our minds immediately ask, began from what? And saying nothing doesn't quite solve it. The problem with absolute zero. Imagine we go backwards in time. The universe, hotter, denser universe, earlier and earlier. Eventually, we reach what we call the beginning. But then what? If there were absolute nothing before it, we're left with an extraordinary problem. There was no space, no time, no matter, no energy, no physical laws, no consciousness, no possibility. Then suddenly, something? And my objection is essentially, why? Not what mechanism caused it, but why was there ever anything capable of beginning at all? Because nothing has no ingredients from which a universe can emerge. And here's where my infinity idea becomes really interesting. People can use infinity as an answer to almost anything. The universe has always existed. Okay, perhaps there are infinite universes. Perhaps consciousness is eternal. Perhaps God is eternal. Perhaps. But notice what has happened. We've taken the problem of where something came from and moved the starting line infinitely backwards. We've said it didn't begin, it has always been. But that doesn't necessarily explain existence. It simply removes the beginning. And this is where my thought about the Big Bang is particularly interesting. Even if the universe is cyclic, you've still got the same philosophical problem. Universe A collapses. Universe B begins. Universe B eventually collapses. Universe C begins. And so forth. A cycle. Okay. But then you can ask, why is there an eternal cycle rather than nothing? You've solved the problem of a first universe, but you've potentially replaced it with an infinite sequence of universes. And infinity itself becomes the thing that we need explaining. And there's an even nastier little question hiding underneath. Suppose scientists eventually establish that our universe is finite. Not just finite in size, but finite in duration. There really was a first moment. Then we've got something extraordinary. There is a boundary to existence. But what does a boundary mean when there is nothing beyond it? Think about the edge of a map. You can point to the edge because there is something outside the map. But if the universe is literally everything that exists, there isn't an outside. So the beginning isn't merely the first event in time, it is potentially the point at which time itself begins. And that's where our normal language becomes almost useless. We say, "What happened before the Big Bang?" But if time began with the Big Bang, there isn't a before. It's a bit like asking, what's north of the North Pole? The question may contain an assumption that doesn't apply, but that still doesn't answer the question I'm really asking. Because you can then say, fine, if there was no before, why does there exist a reality in which time began at all? And that is the philosophical monster. This is where my absolute zero idea gets really powerful. You could imagine 3 possibilities. 1. Absolute beginning. There really was a first moment. Before it, there wasn't even time. Then existence somehow begins. 2. Eternal existence. There was never a first moment. Reality, consciousness, God, mathematics, or something else has always existed. 3. Cyclic existence. There is no first universe because reality continually generates new universes. But all 3 essentially leave us with the same question. Why? Is there something rather than absolute nothing? The first gives you a beginning without an obvious explanation. The second gives you infinity without an obvious explanation. The third gives you an eternal cycle without an obvious explanation. And this is why my point about infinity is good. Infinity can postpone the question without necessarily answering it. There's also something particularly interesting about my resistance in saying the Big Bang just happened. Scientifically, the Big Bang theory isn't really intended to answer the ultimate philosophical question of why existence exists. It describes the early evolution of our observable universe extraordinarily well. But there was an early hot, dense state, and here is why there is a reality at all, are 2 very different questions. And modern cosmology has several ideas about what might precede or underlie our observable universe, including various inflationary, quantum, cosmological, and cyclic models. But each one potentially pushes the question one level deeper. What produced that? And then, what produced the thing that produced that? Eventually, you either reach something has always existed, or something began without anything preceding it, or the question itself stops making sense at some fundamental level. And I'm not arguing that scientists are wrong. Perhaps science can eventually explain every physical event from the first fraction of a second onward, but I'm asking a very different question. Why is there a reality in which those physical laws, that space, that time, and that first fraction of a second exist at all? That's not necessarily a scientific question. It's an existence question. And it connects beautifully with my idea yesterday about complete annihilation. Because now you're looking at the two ends of the same strange circle. How can existence begin from absolute nothing? And can existence ever return to absolute nothing? And suddenly, your two dreams become almost mirror images. One is, so that my dreams are like mirror images. One is, can nothing become something? The other is, can something become nothing? And perhaps the truly impossible thing isn't either direction. Perhaps the mystery is that there is something at all. Okay, what do you think of this question? I would love to read your comments. Please do so respectfully. So yesterday I looked at the end of everything. Today I've looked at the beginning. Please be kind to one another. Smile at a stranger. You might just save a life. Remember my belief system. We are the universe experiencing itself. When you hurt someone, you hurt another. Again, if you're feeling generous, please share this video. Many years ago, when I was living with my youngest son, he was in his 20s at the time, we were discussing the idea of nothing. Because as soon as you say nothing, nothing is something. Or is it? So, I would really like to read your thoughts. Do you believe this is eternal? Do you believe there was a beginning? And how do you explain that beginning? Why would there need for all of this to start in the first place? Thank you again for watching. Take care of yourselves. Love, light, and blessings. Bye.